Imagine not being able to feel pain. That would be awesome, right? You'd never have to experience the pain of stepping on a Lego brick or the pain of getting sick. Well, today we're going to be watching Storytime Animated's true story animations all about people who can't feel pain. And just so you know, this is a real condition that some people do suffer from. If you're enjoying these animated stories, do consider subscribing to see more animations on this channel. And I've also left a playlist in the description with a bunch more that you can check out after if you're interested. Now, without further ado, let's get into the first story.
Hi, I'm Ryan, and I have a rare disorder. I don't feel pain. I didn't always know this though. Here's how it all started.
Okay.
My parents thought I was the most perfect baby in the world. Why? I rarely ever cried. I was laughing most of the time and only broke into tears when I was hungry or needed my diaper changed.
This is crazy because babies often have a lot of pain. They drink so much milk and they get lots of gas trapped in them. So if he didn't feel pain, he would have hardly cried. His parents were very lucky.
My parents' friends who also had babies were so envious that my parents were able to get a full 8 hours of sleep each night. One funny story that my dad tells everyone over dinner is that when I was a toddler, I was playing in the dirt outside. He heard me laughing uncontrollably, so he came to see what could have been so amusing about a pile of dirt.
Okay.
When he looked at me, he gasped.
What?
I had a huge scorpion in my hands, and I was just playing with it like it was a teddy bear. He also says I had a huge red mark on my leg where it had stung me.
This kid is crazy. I know he doesn't feel pain, so he's not crying because he got stung, but still, how is he not scared of a scorpion? I'm terrified of spiders, and I'm an adult.
He screamed at me to drop it, then picked me up and ran into the house. I was still laughing, apparently. My parents took me to the doctor to check if I was okay, and I was. However, no one could understand why I wasn't screaming in pain. I had 2 older brothers who were always pushing each other around, and when I was big enough to play their wrestling and boxing games, they included me too.
Oh no.
They were always hitting or punching me, and instead of crying, I just hit and punched back harder.
What the heck?
They'd often stop the games because they were in so much pain. I found it all amusing because I felt nothing. When I was about 6, my family and I were on the beach, and my mom got a sea urchin stuck in her foot.
That happened to me on a boat trip in Turkey, and I had to say it was one of the most traumatic things ever. I cried for so long, and the captain of the ship literally had to tweezer out each individual spike from my foot. It was very painful.
She screamed and shouted in pain.
I did too.
Then she burst into tears. My father tried to pull it out, but the more he tried, the more it hurt. I really couldn't understand why it affected my mother so much, so I went into the sea and caught another sea urchin. I dropped it onto the sand and jumped on it.
Why?
It tickled. Mom, this is fun. Why are you crying? I said. Oh my God, Ryan, she said. We both had urchins stuck in our feet. I was giggling and my mom was crying.
What the heck?
My poor dad had to deal with it all. He drove us to the hospital where they helped us to remove the spikes. For my mother, this seemed unbearable, but it didn't affect me at all. And I guess that is when I realized I was a bit different. I decided to use this difference to my advantage. At school, I developed the nickname Fearless because I was always doing the most outrageous stunts.
You know, he'd be really good at sports because that was something that always put me off of playing sports. Getting hit by the ball, falling over, crashing into someone, so he could be really good at that. Maybe like boxing. Yeah, boxing would be a good sport for him.
I climbed to the top of the monkey bars and deliberately throw myself down. Or I'd swing really high, then just jump off midair.
I did that too, though.
One day, I brought a lighter to school and tried to impress a girl by burning my finger. It was so much fun. But I have to warn you, don't try any of this at home. Or anywhere for that matter.
Yeah, don't do that.
I got into trouble for this because eventually the other kids wanted to attempt my stunts. When they did, they'd end up in excruciating pain with broken limbs. It got so bad that my parents were called into a meeting and I was expelled for being a bad influence.
What? Okay, this guy really is fearless and he's also crazy, which we got from when he was playing with a scorpion, but yeah.
I would do things just for the thrill and attention. For example, one afternoon, my parents decided they'd take us kids out to enjoy a cool stroll in the zoo.
Okay, that's
After laughing at the penguins and observing the zebras, I began to feel a bit bored. As we approached the lion's pit, I got a bright idea.
No.
Ryan, no, my mom screamed. but it was too late.
What? He got in?
I had already jumped in.
No, this is such a terrible idea. He could get himself killed.
I walked around making funny faces at the lions while the crowd screamed for me to get out. Many people had already taken out their phones and they were recording.
Oh my gosh.
I ignored them because there was a cute little lion cub approaching me. I ran towards it and picked it up.
No, what about the
Suddenly,
mom lion?
I heard more shouting. "Ryan, look out," my dad said. Before I could even turn around, a lioness, the cub's mother, I guess, jumped on my back and bit my arm. I turned around and pried her jaws apart with my bare arms.
What is going on?
Then I laughed and hopped out of the lion's pit. I was bleeding, but I seemed totally unbothered by the whole incident.
What?
I went viral that same afternoon. Everyone was talking about me. In the weeks that followed, I became so popular that I was invited by several talk show hosts to talk on their shows. It was all the attention I'd been craving, and more. As a teenager, I continued participating in extreme sports. When I moved to high school, I hung out with the tough kids who were also into extreme
she's got a motorbike now.
We called ourselves the Daredevils, and every other week we'd try a different challenge.
The thing is though, his friends don't have the same genetic issue that he does where he doesn't feel pain. They do feel pain, so if they're taking risks, it might end badly for them.
We went mountain biking, paragliding, skydiving, and base jumping, but my ultimate favorite was cliff diving.
No.
I loved the adrenaline rush I'd get while falling through the air and then crashing on the sea. Unlike my friends, I had absolutely no fear. One afternoon on one of our cliff diving adventures, I had an experience that influenced the rest of my life.
Okay.
It was just like any ordinary day, but while making silly gestures on a cliff, I ended up losing my balance.
Ooh.
Instead of falling into the sea, I hit the rocks and I ended up breaking both my arm and my leg. I only knew this because this is what the x-rays at the hospital revealed.
Ew.
I felt completely fine. Luckily, my problem could be easily fixed, but the doctors were extremely puzzled about why I seemed to feel no pain.
And this is why you should never do stupid things like he's doing, because it always ends terribly. Trust me, it's not good.
Although I could have been discharged earlier, they decided to keep me longer. Several tests were conducted, and after that, they did several more. After what seemed like weeks, they called me and my parents to a meeting. Many doctors were present, and everyone looked at me like I was some sort of alien. The head doctor looked at my parents and said, "This is something we've never seen before at our hospital. Your son Ryan is incapable of feeling pain," he said. "What?" my dad said. "Think about the way he has behaved his whole life. I'm pretty sure there were many clear indicators, but now that we've done the tests, we know for sure," replied the doctor. "Well, there was the scorpion sting when he was a baby, and he never cried when his brothers hit him, and he'd do all kinds of crazy stunts in elementary school. Then the lion." My dad went blank for a while, and then it all clicked. "Well, Ryan needs to be extremely careful because he is unable to feel pain. He seems to constantly put himself in life-threatening situations. He will do things that ordinary humans would probably think twice about attempting."
You know, like jumping into a lion pit. And also this condition isn't good because if he gets an illness and he doesn't have the pain related to it, he might not know he's sick, and that's not very good because you could die from that. When your body's telling you you're in pain, it's for a reason.
"Think about it. He could have killed himself while jumping off that cliff," he said. "Our suggestion is that he stops engaging in dangerous sports.
Good idea.
Can you just calm down and behave like a normal young man for a while?" he said while looking at me. "I don't really care what any of you have to say," I said while walking out of the room and slamming the door.
Oh, he's rebellious.
I was angry. How dare they all talk about me like that while I was right in the room? I loved my life, and I loved the adrenaline rush I felt when I took risks. I wasn't about to put myself in a bubble just because I couldn't feel pain. Instead of persuading me to be careful, the doctor's revelation caused me to feel like I was superior to everyone else.
Oh no.
I decided to use my ability to make money. I started making videos while I hurt myself to see if I could get lots of views on YouTube. People were horrified, but I found it hilarious. I gained more and more views and more followers. When I finally hit 1 million, I felt the greatest sense of accomplishment I had ever felt in my life. I also continued my dangerous stunts, and when I was old enough to drive, I did every single thing I was told not to do in driving school.
Oh no.
I also bought a motorbike, which became my favorite thing in the universe. I learned how to do many
What
stunts,
the
and of course,
heck?
I did them all without a helmet.
Off of buildings?
This was the worst mistake, and maybe I should have cared and listened to my mom when she begged me to wear it. One night, while I was biking through the mountains and testing out some stunts all by myself, my lights stopped working. It didn't bother me much, but I decided I should try to head back home.
Oh no.
I went speeding through the mountains back to the town. I really enjoyed feeling the breeze through my hair.
In the dark?
I didn't think that speeding was a bad idea because these roads were usually clear at night.
Okay.
Suddenly, I saw a bright white light and heard a huge bang.
No way.
Then, everything went black. I woke up to a masked face staring directly at me. I looked around and realized I was in an operating room. I looked at my body and realized I had many cuts all over.
Oh no.
The surgeons were trying to stitch me back together, and it looked really gross.
This is why you should wear a
I
helmet.
didn't feel anything, but just seeing myself like that really upset me. I was given a few sleeping pills, and when I woke up hours later, my parents were sitting by my side. "Oh, Ryan, my love, what have you done to yourself
What a
now?"
silly boy.
My mom said while wiping the tears off her face. "What do you mean, Mom? I just feel a bit drowsy, but I'm perfectly fine," I said while trying to sit up. But I couldn't move.
What?
I tried and tried again, but nothing worked. "What happened to me?" I
He's not
asked.
paralyzed, is he?
"You were in a really horrible accident. You were paralyzed from the waist down, and you might be confined to a wheelchair for the next 3 years,
way.
honey," my mom said. "But that can't be. I didn't feel anything," I said, shocked. At that moment, the doctor walked in. "Although you don't feel anything, you have badly injured yourself. Your body needs time to heal. After 2 or 3 years, we'll get started with the physical therapy to help you walk again.
Oh my gosh.
But you will never be the same. I'm sorry," he said. I sighed and thought that I should have listened to them when
You
they
should
asked me
have.
to be more careful. I was filled with regrets. I now have 1 year left to go, and I'm really hoping that I'll be able to stand soon.
No way.
Although I still can't feel pain, I feel humiliated and frustrated like this. I should have made better decisions, and when I get out of this wheelchair, I will stop seeking attention, and I will try to be a lot more careful.
Good. And this is the reason where you should be super, super careful, because you could end up like him. Now we've watched this story, it's time to watch another one about somebody else with the same condition.
Hi, my name is
Hi.
Lenny, and I know this will sound crazy, but I
Okay.
actually am unable to feel pain.
I believe you.
This might sound like an amazing trait, but it can be really dangerous. Let me tell you my story. When I was a little kid, I didn't know that I was different from other children my age. I would watch TV shows and movies and get so confused whenever I saw someone getting hurt. They would cry in pain or sob or something, and I didn't understand what was happening to them. You see, I was born with a rare condition that basically eradicated all the receptors in my brain. The doctors aren't sure if I was born without them or if they were destroyed. But back then, I didn't know any of that. I just thought people were weird. I've never experienced pain, and so I can't even relate to it. The very idea of something hurting is foreign to me. Imagine growing up not knowing what pain feels like, or
I kinda
even
wish that was
understanding how
true.
it works.
For me.
I remember a kid falling down in class
Ow.
one day and bumping his head against the desk. He cried and was sent to the nurse's office. I was so confused, and everyone looked so worried. Why did the kid sob like that? Why was he holding his head and saying it ached?
Poor kid.
I had bumped my head plenty of times, and I had felt, well, nothing at all. I wanted to ask the teacher about it, but then I suddenly realized, what if I was the one that was weird?
Yeah.
What if there was something wrong with me and my classmates made fun of me? So I decided to remain silent and pretend I was worried too.
Okay.
It wasn't too hard because I was worried, but not about the kid's pain. I was worried someone would realize I was different,
Oh.
but no one even looked at me. I decided it was best to just stay quiet about it and move on with my life. Surely I would also feel that thing called pain one day. If
Maybe.
everyone suffered it, I was going to as well one day, right? Well, no, I wouldn't, and I would discover it in a rather dramatic fashion. My parents had no idea I was unique. They just thought I was a really resilient kid. Mom was so proud that I was so brave when I had my shots or when I scraped my knees. She would tell other mothers how I wouldn't even flinch when the nurse came close to me with a big needle.
That's crazy.
Little did she know that I wasn't afraid because I had no idea what pain actually was. If something couldn't hurt me, why would I be worried about it? And so my mom and dad didn't notice my condition for the first few years of my life.
I wish I couldn't feel pain because I get so scared when I go for my vaccinations because it hurts so bad. Yet people around me are like, oh, that doesn't hurt. But yeah, definitely hurts me. So I'm kind of jealous of his condition because of that.
It wasn't until I had my first big accident that everything changed.
Okay.
It all happened so fast.
What was
No one
it?
was to blame for the accident, but it was still really scary. Or so my parents tell me.
I want to know what it was.
The truth is, I wasn't afraid at all. I was playing at the playground after lunch one day.
Yeah.
Mom had insisted we go to the park so I wouldn't spend all day long glued to the TV. I was really excited since that meant I'd be able to run around and be silly. We had been in the playground for a while when I decided to go for the swings. I loved them. It was so much fun to go as high as I could. It felt like I was flying.
He's gonna jump off,
I
isn't he?
remember Mom warned me not to go so high, but I didn't listen. I just chuckled and tried to jump forward.
Oh no.
I was planning on landing on my feet neatly, but I messed up.
We know where this is going.
I landed on my right arm and heard my mom scream a few feet away from me. She later told me I hit the ground really hard, but I didn't feel a thing.
Ooh.
I didn't even bat an eye, didn't cry for
Did
help,
he break his arm?
didn't get scared. Mom and Dad saw everything, and they were freaking out. It was clearly hurt, but I didn't react at all. They asked me if I was okay, and I replied that I was fine and if I could go back to play. They were really worried because they saw my arm looked like it was bent the wrong way.
Ew.
Still, I didn't complain or anything.
No way.
They decided to take me to the ER just in case.
Good.
You know how sometimes the adrenaline keeps people from feeling pain and then it hits them all at once?
Yeah.
Well, that's what my parents figured was happening to me. When a doctor finally got to us, he checked me out and immediately did an X-ray.
That's a
on me.
bad break.
He didn't look too happy, and this concerned my parents. Why was the doctor frowning if I looked like it didn't hurt at all? Surely it couldn't be that bad. It turned out I had a very badly fractured arm. The doctor was in shock that I wasn't complaining or screaming since it was supposed to be a really painful injury. I actually had to undergo surgery to help my arm heal properly.
Look at
It
that
was
doctor.
bad.
Why does he look
The
like
nurses
that?
asked me as I woke up from the anesthesia if something hurt. I just replied that it didn't. The doctor wanted to see if I could really go without painkillers after the surgery. I didn't even feel the difference. The whole staff
What the
was
heck?
fascinated by my case. I didn't take any pain medication during my stay there and felt perfectly okay.
Do you think the doctors thought he was lying? Like, oh, look at this kid showing off. He doesn't need pain relief. But he's actually telling the truth. He really doesn't need it.
In fact, my mom had to threaten to ground me just to keep me in bed. It was important that I lay still for a few days to recover. The problem was I felt just fine and was bored out of my mind.
I bet.
My parents didn't know what to make of it and decided to take me to a specialist. After all, I was supposed to feel pain. What could possibly be wrong with me? It took the doctors several tests to finally figure out what was happening. An MRI image showed a lack of transmitters in my brain that would usually decode pain.
Okay.
Though I technically should be able to feel it, my brain was unable to process and react to it. The doctor
crazy,
said it was
though.
an incredibly rare condition and that there were very few documented cases in the world. I was very unique, and honestly, I thought it was really cool. My parents were admittedly very worried, but to me, it was so awesome. With this newfound knowledge, I became incredibly reckless. I was known in the neighborhood as the daredevil kid on the street.
Not
and
again.
it only got worse as I grew up.
Just like the guy in the last story. It's kind of like a superpower for them. So they like showing off with it, but it's not good. Because it means they can get hurt.
I would get into all kinds of problems and always be looking for my next adrenaline fix.
Oh, no.
Teens in my school were always challenging me to try new and weird stuff, and I always took them up on it. I won every single bet and made good money off it.
I can imagine this happening as well, because teenagers are crazy.
My mom would always check how I was whenever I got home, and she begged me to be more careful.
Yeah.
I love my mother to bits, but I had grown too used to being a daredevil to stop.
Oh, no.
I loved testing my limits. Plus, honestly, I kind of wanted to discover if anything would actually make me feel pain at all.
His poor
The doctors
mom.
said it was impossible, but I like experimenting with things for myself.
This is a bad
I'll
idea.
be honest and say I've had a lot of broken limbs over the years.
He broke his
plus
nose?
many more broken noses and even fingers. I'm okay with that. I just go to the hospital and they patch me up. My mom freaks out every single time. I apologize, but we both know I'll do it all over again soon. Sometimes I don't even realize I have a fracture until someone lets me know I'm walking kind of weird.
Oh my gosh.
A lot of my friends got jealous of me over the years, but they still love seeing me perform cool tricks for them. Now, as fun as this all sounds, there is a big problem here.
Okay.
I have no way of knowing if I get hurt or not.
Yeah.
It's kind of a mess, especially for someone so reckless as I am. Doing something as simple as running is dangerous because I can't tell if I stepped on something sharp or if I bent my knee or something like that. Each morning when I wake up, I have to check to see if I didn't scratch my body or something. I also have to be really careful when I'm cooking, because if I ever burn or cut myself, I won't feel it at all. Sure, I don't suffer at all, but my body still gets hurt. I could get a really bad burn and have to be hospitalized, all because I'm completely immune to pain. Imagine needing to be super careful about anything you do, and checking yourself in the mirror every few hours.
Also, it's super bad if he keeps like continuously breaking bones and stuff, because that's gonna give him a ton of issues when he's older, like arthritis and joint issues. So yeah, this condition isn't a good thing to have.
It gets so boring, and I'm not exactly the most patient guy in the world. Sometimes I forget and then suffer the consequences. For instance, I once got a really bad infection, and since I didn't realize anything was wrong,
Oh, no.
I ended up in the hospital for an entire week. The doctors pumped so many antibiotics into me, and I didn't feel a thing. Another time, I suddenly began feeling super sick. Nothing hurt, of course, but I was rushing to the toilet every 5 minutes. I couldn't retain any liquids, and Mom got really worried. The doctor at the ER at first didn't pay me much attention. He said that most symptoms pointed toward me having appendicitis, but since I wasn't in pain, it was impossible. When my mom explained my condition, he got really worried. They examined me, and apparently my appendix was about to burst.
Dear.
I could have been a goner, and all because I didn't feel a thing.
Yeah.
If my mom hadn't been so quick in taking me to see a doctor, it would have been a really big mess.
Thank goodness she did.
I'm grateful my mother is so protective and helps me constantly, but she can be a bit overwhelming from time to time. From the moment she discovered my condition, she began to act so weirdly. She wanted me to have someone with me at all times, but I refused. I want to grow to be a normal person and have a happy life, even if I can't feel pain. Ever since then, I've tried to be more careful, but honestly, it's still kind of hard.
I bet.
I have a girlfriend now, and she is a lifesaver. She reminds me to check my body for cuts and scrapes and also keeps me from doing foolish stuff. I've also quit doing daredevil stunts.
Good.
At least for now. I need to learn
glad.
to listen to my body even if I don't feel any pain. After all, I want to live to be old and maybe even marry the girl I'm dating. She is amazing and shares my sense of adventure. With her by my side though, I get to enjoy the excitement without actually getting hurt. Thanks for watching. What would you do if you couldn't feel any pain? Let us know in the comments.
So it seems like both people in these stories ended up doing crazy daredevil stunts because of their condition. Yeah, I don't think it's something I would ever want to live with. Anyway guys, that's where I'm gonna leave this video today. I hope you did enjoy it. If you did, remember to leave a like on it. And if you want to see another one from me, you can click on one of these and I'll see you over there.